Of the Trump administration's retribution campaign against Harvard University and now the independent student-run law journal on campus. Stunning revelations about how the Trump administration is wielding power to punish its perceived enemies and impose its political agenda. New York Times is reporting this, quote, "The Justice Department quietly approached Harvard University last month with startling claims and signaled that it was reviewing claims of discrimination against white men at the Harvard Law Review, and accused the renowned publication of destroying evidence in an open investigation. Quote, in a series of letters that have not been previously reported, the government also disclosed that it had a, quote, cooperating witness inside the student-run journal. That witness now works in the White House under Stephen Miller, the architect of the administration's domestic policy agenda, Trump officials confirmed. Quote, the witness, Daniel Wasserman, was identified as a government cooperator in two of the letters to Harvard University from the Justice Department last month when he was still an editor at the Harvard Law Review. Joining our conversation is New York Times correspondent Michael Bender. He's bylined on that reporting we just read from. Amanda, Barb, and Miles are still with us. This seems wild, Michael Bender. Take us through what you're reporting.
Yeah, this has been one of the more remarkable stories, I think, in this entire saga from Trump, his assault on academia, most recently on Harvard. I think this is, whether it's sort of the his deportation policy or his tariff policy or these attacks on higher education, the Trump administration has prioritized speed and shock value first and foremost. And what this story does, I think, is sort of shows the risks and the rewards of that kind of shoot first mentality. You mentioned there is a cooperating witness for the Department of Justice who works in the White House. It is not clear to me that the White House knew he was a cooperating witness when the Justice Department hired him. It's not clear to me that the Justice Department knew he was working in the White House or interviewing with the White House when they started working with him on his case. And that has led to, as you can imagine, a lot of complications in this investigation. On the other hand, the administration did extract some concessions out of the Harvard Law Review. Now, this is a student-run publication that doesn't have is independent of Harvard and doesn't receive any federal funding. And it was fairly extraordinary that they got involved at the Law Review on behalf of this student in the first place. But the Law Review did decide to revoke some disciplinary action against this student for downloading documents in violation of their privacy policy. And they've largely moved away from their requests of him to stop disseminating those documents. Maybe not a big deal in and of itself, but where the Trump administration is concerned, even those small things are viewed as big victories inside the administration.
Michael Bender, just explain to me why Harvard is engaged or how layered it is for the Law Review person who viewed himself as, I guess, wrongfully reprimanded based on the reporting. At what point in the timeline does he become a West Wing staffer in the Trump war against Harvard?
Yeah, so he is... there is some overlap in those timelines. His first day in the White House was at the end of May, at basically the same time the Department of Justice is sending Harvard letters informing them that they have a cooperating witness from inside the Law Review. It's our reporting that this employee, this former Harvard Law student, started interviewing with the White House roughly at the end of April. That's also about the same time this issue first bubbled up within the Law Review of potential discrimination against white men, white authors inside their review, was from a conservative publication, a story in the Washington Free Beacon. That sort of spun up this story and launched investigations now from the Department of Education, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Justice into the Harvard Law Review.
Amanda Carpenter, I don't know where to begin. We are now, I guess with a straight face, to swallow the discrimination cases being pursued by the almighty United States Department of Justice, Civil Division. The reporting suggests it may eventually become a criminal investigation by a young man who is now a West Wing staffer. Tell me all the things that is wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth taking a step back because it's hard to keep track of all the ways, right, that Donald Trump is seeking to punish Harvard. And so, what is this about? I mean, this originally started with claims of the university not protecting Jewish students, and that was a reason to question all these practices. And now it's just kind of spiraled out of control to the way that they want to police the editorial practices of a student-run paper, right? I mean, I think we should see this for what it is. This is an all-out attempt for a hostile takeover of one of America's premier places of higher education, right? These people want to use these threats and withholding federal funding essentially to make every college in America Hillsdale. They are questioning their ability to set their own hiring practices, admission, curriculum, and now what students write and say among themselves for their own papers. I mean, this is an incredible overreach. And, I think they're so focused on Harvard precisely because it is a crown jewel of education. Essentially, if you can break Harvard, you can break all the colleges because they have more resources. And so this is a roadmap. I don't think it's working, but it is working with some success, right? Even at Harvard, because they have to engage in all these harassing investigations. The students now have to be afraid of what they're doing on their own. And so this is going to be tough. But I do think everybody should be looking closely, not just on the nitty-gritty and day by day of what they're doing to Harvard, but the big picture, all the things they're doing. And, I just got to praise Michael and everyone else who's really been following the story at the New York Times, because it is hard to track. It does take a lot of resources. I think they're up to something like 8 separate investigations into Harvard right now. But if they can do it to Harvard, they'll do it to everyone else.